Gentlemen, welcome to our channel. If you, like me, do not support adultery and believes that cheaters should be fully responsible for their actions, then like this video and do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Well, let's get started. I am currently serving in the Army and am on my second business trip. During my first service last year, my marriage went through considerable strain. During all this time, my wife repeatedly threatened me with separation and divorce, which hurt me very much. Unfortunately, she didn't show any concern about how it affected me. Even with minor disagreements, instead of an open and rational conversation, she resorted to threats. She constantly avoided solving our problems through communication and instead snapped at me. Unfortunately, even today she is still threatening to leave, and I have reached the limit of my abilities because of these constant quarrels. Currently, my beloved wife is pregnant with our child, and I have a deep love for her. We have been together since school years, experienced both difficult and joyful moments, but now I do not know what to do. During the last business trip, she accidentally sent me a message about her whereabouts while visiting a friend. Out of curiosity, I decided to check out this place and discovered that it was actually the residence of her former partner. This discovery upset me very much, and frankly, I began to bombard her with numerous calls, desperately demanding explanations about her whereabouts. Unfortunately, she didn't answer right away. After a while, after about 40 minutes, she still called me. She explained that her connection was not working well due to the fact that her friend's house was in an area with a weak signal, and convinced me that she was not at her ex's. According to her, the location that appeared on her old iPad was the result of mistakenly clicking the send location button. At first, I didn't know how to react, but in the end, I decided to believe her and leave everything as it is. More recently, she had a disagreement with another friend about personal issues that I cannot disclose. This girl, whom we will call Nika, went to the trouble of creating fake accounts on social networks to send a message to my wife and me. In her message, she told me that my wife was engaged in promiscuous sexual relations while I was on a business trip. It is unclear whether she was referring to a previous business trip or the current one I am on. In addition, the message she sent me said that during my business trip, she was in a relationship with a man named Rick. I feel confused and unsure of what to do and who to trust in this situation. I'm turning to you for help and advice. During our conversation about the messages, she did not touch at all on the part that talked about her cheating, which caused me an unpleasant feeling. Considering that soon I won't be communicating with her for several weeks, I'm torn between discussing this issue with her or leaving everything as it is. Did I do the right thing by suspecting or assuming that she cheated on me? It is important to note that in 2018, when I was on a business trip, my wife and I were already experiencing difficulties in our relationship. We got married at the beginning of the year, but just 2 months after the wedding, she started threatening me with divorce. This happened repeatedly throughout the entire business trip, and it bothered me a lot. I begged her to forgive me after every quarrel and gave in to her demands. I'm aware of my shortcomings and do not consider myself superior to her, but she also behaved in a similar way. I'll explain. We were school sweethearts and dated for a considerable time. Unfortunately, I cheated on her, which led to our breakup. But soon I realized what a colossal mistake I had made and ended the relationship with another, which led to our reconciliation. After several years of from and to relationships, we finally got married when I joined the Marine Corps. In 2018, my wife went to a drag club with her friends, so she claimed, and sent me some photos before leaving. In the photos, she was dressed in a strikingly seductive outfit, a tight dark skirt combined with a revealing top and choker. I couldn't help but be alarmed because she never dressed like that for me or in my presence. My anxiety increased when I looked at the photos more closely and noticed that she had taken off her wedding ring. It was a serious warning sign, but she attributed it to my meanness and our quarrels. I willingly shared all my passwords and usernames with her, giving her full access to everything without any concerns. But she didn't dare to share her own with me. But in the end, she did it. But oddly enough, it didn't work for me, and she just brushed it off, saying that everything works for her. By September 2018, our problems continued, and this case was the most unpleasant. One evening, she accidentally sent me her location in iMessage and didn't understand why she did it. I had a terrible intuition. I decided to search for this place on Google Earth and noticed that the roads and surroundings seemed familiar to me from the place where we lived. In less than a few minutes, I discovered that she was indeed at her ex-boyfriend's house. I felt empty and very angry. I flooded her phone with messages, demanding FaceTime to personally verify her whereabouts. She replied with messages, referring to a bad signal. But eventually, after about 20 minutes driving on an unfamiliar road, she turned on FaceTime. I shouted at her, and she insisted that she was at her friend's and she had a bad reception. I couldn't help crying, feeling completely lost at that moment. I regret that I didn't insist that she check her location when she told me she was at her friend's. She insisted she hadn't been to Levi's and wondered why the location showed otherwise. According to her, it was supposed to be her old iPad, which she left at his house. People who anonymously turned to the internet for advice claimed that it was impossible to determine the location from another device. I am torn between different points of view, and even now this thought continues to haunt me and does not let me sleep at night. I'm constantly thinking about what could have happened or happened during her visit to his house. The thought of them having an intimate relationship drives me crazy. I could be perfectly fine, but as soon as this thought occurs to me, I'm overwhelmed with sadness and anger. Returning home after the service, she and I decided to stay with another couple with whom I served. One evening, while looking through her phone, I saw that she still has her ex's Instagram connected to her own. This upset me very much, and I went to bed early. The next morning, I had to get up early for training, and I made a conscious decision not to talk to her. This upset her very much, as she really wanted to understand the reason for my silence. After the psychotherapy session, when we returned home, she continued to pester me with this question. Calming down, I did tell her about it, to which she replied simply, "Oh, I knew it would be something like this." She further said that this problem had persisted since their previous relationship, and all this time she could not eliminate it. In addition, looking through her pictures, I came across a recording made a few days before the resumption of our relationship in 2017, which showed how she spends time with her ex. Unfortunately, it turned out that these materials were deleted, as I could not find them afterwards. All the photos, screenshots of conversations, and offensive materials she shared, including the place she sent me, have been completely deleted. She claimed to have deleted them herself, and even grinned at the same time. Alarmingly, she mentioned her ex-boyfriend from high school, who gave her the most bruises from a kiss, implying that I didn't do the same when we were just talking. Although it doesn't count as cheating, I can't understand why she would say something like that to me. What makes me even more confused is that she was at her friend's party where her other ex was present. I feel completely lost in this situation. I deeply love both my partner and our wonderful son, but still, there are times when negative thoughts overwhelm me. Today, I feel compelled to share my problems and ask for advice. After carefully studying the comments and thinking about everything, I decided to contact an Apple support representative via the internet. I asked a question about the possibility of sending the current location of the iPhone and whether it can mistakenly transmit the location from another device or from another location. One of the excuses for choosing the former employee's house was that she left her old iPad there, which, according to her, was still registered in iCloud Apple ID. But the employee I talked to was very attentive and kind, assuring me that this was not true. Having found out this, I realized how easily I had received this confirmation, and it dawned on me that it had been more than 2 years since I last tried to find out the truth, as I had just done. It seems that I was following the path of least resistance, burying and suppressing the emotions I experienced, simply denying their existence. I have evidence confirming her presence in the apartment of a former partner, but I do not know how to find out if she really cheated. How can I get evidence or convince her to confess? I have repeatedly encountered her, but she stubbornly denies her guilt and remains adamant. She insists that she wasn't there and asks what else I expect from her. I made a promise never to divorce her, and I really did it because my love for her is sincere. I want to make sure that if I ever get to this point, it will be done for good reasons. Currently, she has returned home for another week or two, spends time with our son, family, and friends, and I work at a military base. Should I write a message explaining everything and expressing what I want to hear and the truth I desire? Or wait until she comes back and we can talk in private? Maybe I should just leave things as they are until we have a chance to talk. She just admitted that she was there but claims that she only took her iPad and a bag of clothes. She mentioned that the source of localization is most likely the iPad. I will be direct and brief. After stubbornly defending my position, I finally managed to get her to confess to treason in September 2018. I received this revelation less than an hour ago in the form of a message, providing evidence and an explicit confession of treason. I do not know what steps to take next, but leaving it seems like an obvious choice. But considering that we have a son together, I'm going to do a paternity test to confirm his biological connection with me, despite the fact that I'm almost sure he's mine. I am determined to become the father of this boy, regardless of the outcome. I feel completely broken and lost. Waves of nausea seem endless. I am currently at work, desperately racking my head in search of possible solutions and determining the most appropriate line of behavior. Now I will give a brief information because I am incredibly overwhelmed with work. But first of all, I would like to address all of you. Now she insists that this was the only case of infidelity in our marriage. It hurts me that she betrayed my trust, but I can't deny my love for her. I used to consider her my closest person because she understands me better than anyone else. We have a son together, and, unfortunately, I missed both his birth and his first steps, which happened literally 2 nights ago, and I confessed this to her. Arriving home in the evening, I accepted all the events because they were just part of my job. But to find out that my wife was dating her ex while I was on a business trip is a completely different matter. I did not expect this and did not consider it part of my duties. She said that from July 2017 to September 2018, her ex persistently wrote to her, but she never responded to his messages. That was until the day she cheated. There are times when I feel good, but then suddenly sadness or anger overwhelms me. To be honest, I do not know what to do next. I am currently unable to decide on a choice, and I would appreciate any of your recommendations on where to apply for legal assistance. I plan to discuss with my first sergeant the possibility of a divorce from my wife in the near future and possibly get full custody of our son. Now I'm just expressing my disappointment. I also feel anger towards her ex. I have an overwhelming feeling that if I don't fight him, I will feel worthless. At the same time, I think that if I let him win, I will behave with dignity, but I'm not sure. A lot of things have been happening lately. More and more lies are surfacing. Countless thoughts are swarming in my head. My wife told me that one day she received a message from him, which she answered, and eventually came to his house to spend time together. During the conversation, he asked about our married life, and she frankly admitted that we often quarrel and that our relationship is quite unstable. Unexpectedly, he kissed her, and an intimate contact began between them. By chance, she inadvertently told me her location. A few days later, she got in touch with him again, but this time she said she didn't want to continue their romance. Due to the fact that I unsuccessfully tried to contact her ex-partner via social media, I decided to call him directly, as I was sure there was something else in this situation. Unfortunately, he did not answer, and I left this question for later. But about an hour later, he called me. I asked him if he had had an intimate relationship with my wife, to which he replied that she had come to his house during a party attended by his friends. My wife accompanied her younger cousin and spread false information about our divorce to everyone, including his mother. In this regard, he claimed that he did not know about our marital status. He also asked if I disliked him, to which I replied that although I despised their act, if he really didn't know anything, then it wasn't his fault. I promised that I would turn to him again for help in the near future. I told my wife and our consultant about our conversation, to whom we are now going for consultations. Both of them express disbelief and think I'm crazy for turning to him. The wife initially denies this situation and suggests discussing it later. In the end, she writes me a message, as I assumed that it would be easier for her to admit the whole truth through this means. Now she claims to be revealing the whole truth. According to her, she met him at the exhibition and had a short conversation. A few days later, He wrote her a message that led to further communication. In one of the cases, he asked what she was doing, invited her to his house, and eventually she went to his house where they engaged in intimate life. According to her, it was their only intimate contact. She mentions that they spent time together, but this was limited to meetings and hour-long trips in his car, occasionally exchanging kisses before parting. She describes their relationship as a month-long affair, in which there was only one case of physical intimacy, and the rest of the interactions were of an emotional nature. It is important to note that during my absence she had a boyfriend, but she claims that she ended this relationship the day before she left for my unit, where I was returning from a business trip. It makes me think that she broke up with him just because she wanted to be with me. She admits that she stopped all communication with her ex-boyfriend. During the next holiday, she told me that she had already discussed with her mother the possibility of our upcoming divorce. Surprisingly, her mom seemed to be aware of their conversation. According to her, he knew about our marital status because every time he met her, he sarcastically asked how our married life was going. She admitted that she usually answered normally, but in one case admitted that she was stormy and filled with constant quarrels. In addition, she said that on the day of her betrayal, her uncle noticed her car at her ex's house. Moreover, during a quarrel between her uncle and mom, he raised the issue that my wife was at her ex's while I was not at home. My wife denied it when her mom asked, and her uncle told my wife's grandmother about it, who then told my wife she didn't want to get involved in their quarrel. She advised her to think about the consequences before taking any action. After I got home, we had a Christmas party with all these people and no one mentioned anything about this incident. This situation made me doubt that her family really cares about me or loves me. During our first consultation, the consultant asked me how I felt about cheating, and I replied that it caused me feelings of sadness, anger, and emotional distress. She asked, "Why?" It happened more than 2 years ago, and my wife really agreed, making me doubt my sanity. I didn't know that my wife had been keeping a secret for years, even before we started dating. She disapproved of this activity, calling it disgusting, so I refrained from it and almost never did it. But recently, I found out from her Google search history that she had been doing this herself for several years. She calmly stated that it no longer mattered to her whether I was doing it. I was ashamed to admit it, but no one else knows about it, and I would prefer not to mention what it was. And yet it hurt me deeply. She also openly lied about the amount on her credit card, which further increased my concerns. Last night, our fight got to the point where she threw and smashed my phone. Although I want to believe that she has changed and loves me, I find it difficult to trust her. I've consulted with lawyers, and it is likely that I will seek a divorce. It seems that she hasn't changed as a person, except that she stopped cheating on me. I'm thinking of discussing this issue with her family and friends, but I doubt if it's the right thing to do. For several years, she showed emotional and sometimes physical pressure towards me, often treated other people badly, especially those who cheated, and only then discovered that she was like them. In addition, she fears that if people find out about it, they will despise her, which will lead to loneliness and loss. I'm wondering if spreading this information to other people can influence the judge's decision in our divorce case. I am seized with fear at the thought of leaving. This woman has been my closest companion for many years, surpassing even my closest male friends. We have experienced countless events together and made numerous plans. I cannot understand why she acted the way she did, and she herself claims that she does not know about her motives and thoughts. I have deep feelings for her. Her beauty does not leave me indifferent. Every time I see her, whether in person or in a photo where she's depicted with our child, I fall in love with her again and again. But at the same time, I don't stop wondering why she decided to do what she did. As a devout Christian, I strive to put into practice God's teaching about forgiveness. I'm pondering whether forgiveness will decrease or increase my manhood. If I decide to forgive her and reconcile, will it be in accordance with God's wishes? I believe that ultimately this is what He wants, but at the same time, I know that divorce due to infidelity is also recognized by Him. Although He encourages forgiveness and a second chance, I'm not sure if I can personally embark on this path. It is worth noting that her ex-partner is physically different from me. He's overweight and shorter than me. He either has money or at least his family does. She confessed to me that he puts more effort into their relationship than I put into our marriage, and I asked her how it happens. She explained that he takes her with him to restaurants, to shops, even to the lake. I said I couldn't do all this because I wasn't rich, especially considering how she spends all our money. Surprisingly, she agreed with me, admitting that she herself has money problems. But why did she need to enter into a months-long emotional affair? She insists and swears that they only had sex once. I'm completely devastated. Country music now only aggravates my condition, except when I play sports. When we started dating, she introduced me to country music, and I became deeply immersed in it. I could not imagine that my beloved would cause such severe pain. It's like a plot from a movie that makes you sympathize and think, that would be terrible if it happened to me. Unfortunately, this has become my reality, as a result of which I am heartbroken, broken, and emotionally torn. I have distanced myself from family and friends, responding to their messages only if they persistently contact me. The only ones who are aware of the situation are my dad and stepmother. They still love her, but they despise her act. At work, colleagues begin to take an interest in my well-being, and I pretend that everything is fine. In this profession, it is very important for me to remain calm, because my personal problems should not prevent me from fulfilling my duties towards the students whom I was entrusted to teach. But the frequent conversations with his wife and additional phone calls did not go unnoticed. It seems that my colleagues are beginning to realize that something is wrong. I'm not looking for sympathy. I just want this pain to stop. I believe that this is the only suitable platform for expressing my thoughts, because I am not sure that informing her entire family, friends, as well as myself, is the right line of behavior. Can this affect the judge's decision in court? Still, I am grateful for the opportunity to speak out. 3 months have passed and I finally decided to divorce. After doing a DNA test, I found out that my son is not my biological one, and it has greatly ruined my life. And now I'm divorcing this lying bitch, but at the same time I want to raise my son, who is not biologically mine. It's been another 6 months and I'm a free man, but something terrible has happened. This lying trash after the divorce left the child to me for one day and disappeared, and for a month she has not been announced. And I'm going to deprive her of her maternal rights and adopt a boy whom I love as my own. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Put likes and subscribe to the channel. See you soon.